And this is Bryan About Town here on News Talk WSIC here on Tuesday, the 6th day of October. Hard to believe we're in October. A beautiful day out there. Hope everybody gets a chance to get out there and enjoy the weather and enjoy as we move into fall. I'm kind of reminiscing here. I got my orange flowered shirt on today, kind of for fall. So everybody likes that today. Well, a great show today. First of all, I'll do a kind of a teaser at the bottom there. We're going to have Michael Williams is a civics teacher with the Crossroads Academy here in Statesville. He's going to bring a couple students on. We'll talk about the Electoral College if you want to learn a little bit about that. And also, two first-time voters are going to talk about what it means to vote for the first time and how they are looking forward to making their vote count and how the Electoral College plays a part in electing the President of the United States. So that's a big show there. But now, our sponsor, Energy United, we're on here, and we're so pleased to have Energy United as a partner here on News Talk WSIC. Have three very distinguished persons. Thomas Golden, we've got Thomas Golden, who is this Chief Strategic Officer for Energy United. Good morning, Thomas. How are you doing?
Good morning, Brian. How are you?
All right, and Brian Sisson, who is one of the board members. Good morning, Brian.
Good morning. How are you?
And also Craig Black. Good morning, Craig.
Hey, Brian. Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. We're going to talk a little bit about all things the electric cooperative and what it means to operate an electric cooperative. But first of all, Thomas, give us an update. You've just wrapped up applications for Bright Ideas, and you're in the process of evaluating those applications right now. Is that correct, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. Maureen, I think, has been spending, I think she was looking at the applications for about 15 hours yesterday, trying to go through it. It's definitely her passion project to make sure that she can get those dollars out to our local school teachers so that, even in these strange times, they still have some great projects being submitted from what I'm hearing. So those results, I think, will be out very soon, and look forward to making those awards.
And also, of course, one of the big things we always try to promote is the foundation, the Energy United Foundation, and explain a little bit about how folks can take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think since COVID started, I think the foundation has been able to award around $65,000 to sort of these awesome groups out there like United Way of Iredell County and others that, they know how to get the dollars in the hands of people who need it. And so we were, lucky and fortunate enough for members to continue to contribute to that fund by rounding up their bill to the nearest dollar. And all those, like Maureen says, pennies and nickels and quarters add up to a whole lot of money that we're able to put back in the community for people who are in need. So it's been a tremendous thing to be able to offer people in this time.
And also, of course, we want to cover, too, there was a time that the governor, of course, and you guys participated in this where you allowed those who were in financial distress to delay their payment of their electricity bill. But now, of course, that has kind of expired. So what are you doing to work with those who are in arrears, and what can be done about that at this point?
Well, we're lucky. We got a couple board members here right now. And the thing that the board was really serious about at the very beginning was taking care of our community. So, before the governor put out his orders, before any mandates came down, Energy United was in front of that. We decided as a company that, in a community really, that, let's do the right thing. And the board was very supportive of that and said, let's do it. So we did the right thing. And very early, we got out in front and we stopped those disconnects. We stopped late fees. We stopped all those things that we were later mandated to do so that we could help people out. And just on top of that, the board has been very supportive of, we now are mandated to do a 6-month repayment program. We're at 9-month repayment programs to try to help people get that little extra distance and reduce the payments a little bit more as they try to get caught back up, in this challenging time. So, I think I'm pretty proud of Energy United, and obviously Brian and Craig can weigh in too, but just the way that we have taken care of our members who are in need, I think is the right thing to do.
Excellent. So, Brian, I'll bring you on first. And so talk a little bit about what does it mean to be on the board of Energy United?
Well, it's actually a privilege. Most of us are involved in other ways in the community, and serving on Energy United, it's an enjoyable thing to do. What a lot of people don't realize is as a co-op, we're member owned and we're member run. So, everybody that sits on the board is an actual member of Energy United. We're paying customers. We go through the same thing that all our other members go through of getting a bill once a month and having to pay it and having to balance, our checkbooks and making sure that everything is paid properly and paid on time. And that's, it's part of the reason that we went with the the 9-month program for people who had gotten behind on their bills is, we're one of the people who are paying them. So it's not, we're not some entity that's out there that nobody knows who we are and nobody knows how to get in touch with us. We're all involved in the community, and any of our members can reach out to us anytime and share with us any concerns or issues they may have.
Yeah. I think based on my talking with the town of Troutman and the city of Statesville, they estimate it's about a 10% percentage of your members are in this situation. I don't know what the exact percentage. That's about the thing. So Craig, I'll bring you on. Craig Black. Good morning, sir.
And, good morning.
And give us a little bit about you. How long? Okay, are you guys serving concurrently, or are there terms? How is the board set up to run?
So we serve 3-year terms, Brian. I guess I'm the baby of the group. I joined the board back in May of last year. We had a great director who unfortunately passed away, but as Brian mentioned, I had the privilege of going through the process and being accepted to be a board member. So it's coming on brand new, there was a lot of learning involved, not just how electricity is made and transmitted and all that, but really what we do for the community and what a co-op is all about. So it's I've been very impressed since day one with the leadership team that we have in Energy United, as well as every single employee. So I'm excited, still learning, but want to do as much as I can to support the community and the organization.
So, Thomas, you and I talked before we came on. One of the topics we wanted to cover is kind of energy cooperative, and it is energy cooperative. That is your entity. You're technically, are you a corporation, or that is the entity? You're a cooperative. Is that what's on your license?
Yeah, it's a cooperative business structure, which really is being owned by our membership. There is no, the thing that I always like to tell people is that. When you look at an investor-owned, right, you've got sort of 3 parties to worry about. You've got the customer, you've got the shareholder, and you've got the employees and customers. You've got a lot of people to deal with. In our group, we've really got our owners are our customers. So when we're thinking about making the right decisions, it's not about a quarterly return on their investment. It's about serving them in a nonprofit way to get them the best value for their company and also for the services that we provide. So it really is a great alignment of what our customers want and what our owners want, because they're one and the same.
So what happens at the end of the year to the profits? Are they plowed back in, or they go out to the members, or what happens?
Yeah, really, you can think about it as our goal is to really only require enough dollars to operate the company, right? And then at the end of the day, we should have zero, right? But oftentimes we try to make sure that we're continuing to drive down costs throughout the year, and we've been pretty successful year over year. I think this year we returned $4.5 million of excess revenues back to our members. And the board was very supportive of doing it a different way this time. We usually do it in December, but because of sort of how Corona hit and the pandemic, we went earlier. We went in August, and we were able to put those dollars right back on people's bills. So we didn't have to worry about sending them a check and them going out and cashing the check at a bank and all the different things that have to happen for that to occur. So putting the dollars back in people's accounts as easily as possible to help them manage their costs during this time.
What have you seen as far as usage? Have you seen an increase or over a net increase or a net decrease in energy consumption?
Yeah, we've probably seen an increase, right? Because of what we're seeing with our residential. On the residential side, for sure, we've seen an increase because people are at home. On our commercial side, we've seen some drops just because some businesses, they weren't essential, right? So during that non-essential time, it was obviously they're not going to work. But yeah, I think overall we're seeing we saw sort of an increase in residential, and that tells the story of what everybody's experiencing, which is many people are working from home, kids are working, going to school at home, and all those different types of things. So obviously there's more usage, and then obviously during the summertime we see an increase in usage usually anyway. So we've just gone through that.
Yeah. Well, of course, we're at my real job at the ABC store. We're not in your service area, but just please don't turn off the power there. We got plenty to do over there.
I heard the alcohol sales are not a bad place
Oh
to be.
no, we're going like we're getting in the Christmas truck for folks. We're getting in our Christmas essentials, and of course, we'll be getting those prepared for the holiday season. Bryan, tell us a little bit about your regular job. You are in what's your job? You said you're in. Munitions, I mean ammunition or ammo, guns. You have a range. You have tell us about your.
I own two ranges: the range at Lake Norman in Cornelius, and the range at Ballantyne down in Indian Land, South Carolina, along with Pineville Gun Shop in Pineville. So I stay pretty busy right now as you are booming in the alcohol sales. We've been booming in the firearms and ammunition sales with COVID and all of the unrest that's been going on around the country.
Oh, excellent. So, I know that, of course, you're suffering some shortages, I guess, increase in demand in ammo. So that's your commodity that's been tough to get, I'm sure.
Yeah, the demand has been skyrocketing over the last couple of months, and of course, with COVID, all the manufacturers and suppliers have been down, so the supply chain kind of broke a little bit, okay. And we're starting to see a slow recovery and starting to see product and ammunition come back into availability.
Okay, well, very good. And move on to you, Craig. Tell us a little bit about your full-time job. You and I kind of share somewhat of a common background. My job formerly, I grew up in a family-owned office products company, and we did some printing. We did the old hand crank printing, where we fed the machine. You remember those old machines? But but you're in the printing industry, so tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah, not near as exciting as Bryan's industry, but yeah, I'm in the printing industry. I support a very large region within our company. And particularly, I'm with our labeling group, which we saw a big rise during COVID as well, from consumer product goods, the items that everyone were buying off the shelves at the grocery stores, to a lot of the logistic companies, the Amazons, the UPSs that were, out delivering products to people at home. So, we were deemed an essential company during all of this. So it's been pretty busy, to say the least.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about, I'll throw this out to all three of you. Both of you as board members, and of course, Thomas, this is, you are, part of your job is obviously to look to the future. So what can we anticipate will be changing in the next 5 years and beyond for an electric cooperative? How would you see, what is it right now you're planning on that you've got to be prepared for in the next 5 to 10 years?
You guys are going to jump in first. I got
you got to think about that a little bit. Well, let's back up. Let's back up a little bit. I know that I should have maybe prepped you for that question, because that takes a little bit of a thought, because I know you're working on some things. One of the things that I wanted to remind people, we talked off air about solar energy, and that there are ways for folks to contribute to the grid. So talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'll start. So, with solar energy, we have 3 different rate structures allowed for people to go and put solar on their roof and sell it back to Energy United, whatever they don't use themselves. And the way that we have it set it up is we almost treat you like any other place we'd go buy electricity, whether it be like a Southern Company or a Duke Energy. We are going to pay you sort of the going rate for how much that electricity costs us. So the value of that is you get to sell your excess electricity, for value. But on the other side is that the cooperative members as a whole are not subsidizing that cost by paying more. So it's sort of the fairest way, in my opinion, that we can possibly offer the offtake or taking that solar production from you, while obviously compensating you appropriately. And Bryan, I know, and his company has, I think, a solar array, so maybe he can weigh in on that a bit.
So how do you do that, Bryan? I mean, do you flip a switch or something? What do you do?
No, it's an always-on situation. We've got a 5 kW solar array on the roof of our Range at Lake Norman facility. It doesn't generate a tremendous amount of electricity, but it's there. Our intention when we did it was, number one, it was a marketing thing to do. Number two, there were some tremendous federal and state incentives in place at the time. So it's about a $25,000 system that we put on the roof, and it wound up costing us, after all the tax incentives, probably about $7,000 or $8,000 to have it put in place. But people need to understand with solar arrays that you're selling. Majority of people are selling their power back to the electric company right now, so it's not a tremendous money saving application at this point in time. And you had asked, what we see changing over the next 5 to 10 years. I think one of the biggest things that we'll see is battery technology changing. And as that changes and batteries become more prevalent in the solar world, that's going to have a tremendous impact on the electric power companies.
So right now, the problem with, the big challenge is with solar. People that are on solar, can they store the power sufficiently to use it at night, or no?
It depends on the system and what was installed. There's very few rooftops, especially in our area, that are going to be big enough to have a large enough solar array to store enough power to get you through the night.
Okay. Thomas, I should have mentioned this off air too, but I met a gentleman in our store a while back, Alliance Auto Gas. They do propane conversion. I don't know. He said they've worked with you. Are any of your trucks going on propane? Or are they?
Yeah, we have a couple of vehicles that are run on propane, and another thing we like to run on now is electricity. So we're very excited about what does it mean for the future when vehicles become electrified rather than internal combustion engines. So we just actually won a couple of grants from the state of North Carolina to install DC fast charging in a couple locations in our service territory. So what that means is the sort of enabling technology to allow for electric vehicles to not charge in hours but rather minutes. So you asked what's changing, or going to change in the future in the next 5, 10, 15 years. The electrification of transportation is coming, and I think it's coming faster than many of us can really predict. And as an electric utility, we've got to make sure we have the infrastructure built and enabled to serve that new need. So, you think about all the gas pumps out there. Well, now think about how do you get electric pumps out there to serve that same function. So that's going to be changing in a big way, I think, in the years to come.
So I would imagine you would start with just your pickup trucks. You'd start with the small trucks, and then I can only imagine what kind of battery it would take to operate one of your boom, trucks with the boom and everything. I mean, that would take a tremendous battery to power something like that, I would think.
Yeah, they're coming. So what they're sort of splitting the two. When you think of the big line trucks, they're thinking about a technology where you could, you obviously the internal combustion engine for that big large vehicle is probably going to be something here for a while. But can you run the boom with the battery instead, right? So can you kind of build a hybrid approach at the beginning as the technology matures, and then eventually go to sort of a all battery solution? I think when you think about trucks like that are sort of heavy duty, have to go off-road, have to be available in moment's notice, that'll be a much longer run before they become electrified. But for passenger vehicles, light trucks, I think that's where you're going to see the major changes in the near future.
So I would throw this out to Craig and Bryan. I know that Maureen has mentioned before that you guys are doing more than just electricity. Of course, you do propane. And also, I think you have the ability to provide generators. You sell generators? So talk about the board is actively encouraging Energy United to expand its offering. So talk a little bit about that. I mean, what are you guys wanting to see out of Energy United? You wanted to expand their offering, or what are you wanting to see move forward?
Well, from a board perspective, we want our members to understand that we're a full service electric provider. If you have some type of electric need, we want to be the source for you to reach out to fulfill those needs. And Thomas is more involved in what goes on daily with our partnerships and everything, so he'd probably be more the person to talk about that.
Yeah, the board, I'll just give you a quick one. The board's vision is for us to be a leading energy services provider, right? And to me, what that means is, Bryan sort of described a future where you're going to have batteries, and what that means for our members is, as the future sort of unfolds, they'll have more choice. Right? Maybe you generate on your roof and you have a battery and you don't take out as much electricity off the grid, or So we want to be not just a provider of electrons, right, sending you the electricity, but we also want to be able to provide you the things that enable your life, right? So you mentioned generators as one of those energy services that we sell today and we're very interested in, because what that does is when we today deliver about 99.98% reliability, but for some people that's not enough. If you are working from home, for instance, and you want 100% reliability, then an energy service you might be interested in is a backup generator. That way you're guaranteeing yourself that 100% reliability no matter what, you're ready to go. So that's just an example of something that really sort of crosses over between a service, and it has to do with energy and how can we enable that relationship. And we feel like as a trusted partner and a member of the community, we have a really good sense of what the good technology is to help advise the member on what they should really consider when they're making those choices.
One thing I was going to ask too, are you guys kind of locked in? The service area you have now that's you can't expand your service area other than more density of people in your service, or would there be an opportunity to annex or grow bigger? How would is the service area you have now, are you limited to that area, or is there the potential to make that bigger geographically, or you're just growing it organically internal?
I can answer that. I think the answer is both, Brian. Just like you saw the formation of Energy United when we had Davidson EMC and Crescent, right? That was two different cooperatives that merged together. So yeah, there is the opportunity to grow externally like that. But like you said, we have a lot of growth internally, organic growth of density, neighborhoods being put up left and right in those types of situations.
So your challenge, obviously, from both the board perspective and also Thomas, your challenge is as the community grows with more population, making sure that you have the adequate I don't know what's the word I want to use, infrastructure available to provide that.
Yeah, we're consistently looking at our the board this year. We'll look at a thing called a construction work plan, and that really just looks at what does the future, tries to predict the future of what our growth looks like, and make sure that we make you can't all of a sudden put the steel in ground that's going to serve like a bunch of brand new people out of nowhere. You got to really kind of predict those and make those investments early, so that as the load shows up, it's sort of you try to get it just the right time, so that when the people move in, the infrastructure is there to serve them. So it's a consistent sort of crystal balling of what the future looks like for our community. And I'll just mention the other thing that we really try to do is economic development. We've got a team that really is focused on how do we bring, it's not just about bringing residential customers, but members, but it's also about bringing the businesses that people want to work at, right? So how do you establish a vibrant community? You got to have places for people to work and places for people to go out to dinner and buy groceries and all those things. So economic development is a huge piece of what we're consistently trying to do. And, having two guys like this who are, business owners and understand what's important as a business owner, and then obviously their residential customers as well, really gives us some insight on what's important to the customers or to members and to communities and to businesses to make sure that we kind of hit the trifecta of serving our membership.
Excellent. So we want to remind everybody, I want to we're getting down to the bottom of the hour here. Bryan and Craig, thank you for being so important to Energy United. You're serving the board and you're giving encouragement to Thomas and, and everybody he's working with there. And we want to thank Energy United for all they do beyond just providing electricity through the foundation. So obviously, if you want to learn more about the foundation, go to energyunited.com. And learn that. And of course, one sad note, we were so looking forward to Balloon Fest this year. Thomas, you guys providing. We wanted to take a ride in a balloon, Thomas. And we're so sad that's not going to be a reality this year. So
we're still going to get you out there for a bucket truck ride.
We can still do our video with the bucket truck, and we'll get up there and talk about that. So
we're going to get you out there, I promise.
Yeah, all right, we'll do it. And you guys meeting virtually on your board, or you're doing it in person now?
We've been doing virtual.
Been doing all virtual, and your office is still closed, Thomas?
That's right. The office is still closed, and we the virtual meetings have been. I don't know what you guys think, but I think at the beginning it was sort of a challenge, but we're getting used to it, and they seem to be getting better and better with each one.
All right, it has been a privilege, Bryan Sisson, Craig Black, and Thomas Golden with Energy United. Gentlemen, you guys have a great week, and thank you for your service, and thank you for sponsoring About Town here on News Talk WSIC. Have a great week, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
105.9 Lake Norman, 100.7 Greater Statesville, WSIC, where Mooresville turns first for breaking news and severe weather alerts.
Covering Davidson and the
Yeah, we
region,
talked to
WSIC News is next.
Good morning, Mike Williams. Can you hear me?
Brian, how are you?
All right, looking forward to this. So we got Deborah. Did she go by Debbie or Debbie Stewart or Deborah Stewart?
She goes by Shay.
Oh, I mean, it said that must be her mom's. So it's SHEA.
Yeah, Shay.
Shay Stewart, and then Kevin Calverley. All right.
A man has been charged 2
I got a few
months
notes
after
here.
a home robbery
I did
that
find that
occurred
there
in
were
Iredell
5
County,
presidents who
according
were
to the
elected by
sheriff's
the
office.
did not win the popular vote. That's what I'm showing. I don't know if you got the note. It's Quincy Adams, Rutherford Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, Bush, and Trump.
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah, all right. And I'll throw it to you first. Give kind of a little background as far as why we have the Electoral College, and then we'll try to open it up from there.
Sounds good.
I actually heard a good podcast the other day about. I didn't know this, that it is possible. And this is Brought About Town here on News Talk WSIC for Tuesday, the 6th day of October. It's a beautiful day here in Statesville, Troutman, Mooresville, in the Lake Norman area. Thank you very much for joining the show. I'm very excited about this show. It had a great first half hour with Energy United. Thomas Golden, Brian Sisson, and Craig Black. Craig Black and Brian Sisson, board members of Energy United. They are the sponsor for this About Town. Thank them for their service here. But this is a show that actually was inspired by my wife, Gina. I wish her the best. She's still going through some tests at the hospital, but send out my love to her. But also want to she one of her burning desires is to abolish the Electoral College. So I'm not sure we're going to do that today, but we're going to talk about the Electoral College and what it means. And as a side note, I want to thank Dr. Steve Hill. He sent me this note, and I don't know if you know this piece of trivia, is that Hugh Lawson White from Iredell County in 1836 ran for president. We actually had somebody run for president. He was with the Whig Party, and he got 26 electoral votes, and he won North Carolina and Tennessee, but got blown out by Martin Van Buren, who won 170 votes that year in the Electoral College. So that's just a kind of a side note here. But I want to bring in my guest here today. I have Michael Williams with Crossroads. Is it Crossroads Academy? Is that right, Michael?
It's Arts and Science Early College.
Early College, okay. And you have two of your students here, Kevin Calverley. I got that right? Is that
Calverley, yeah.
Calverley, okay. And then Shay Stewart. Shay, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, these are two students that are going to be first-time voters. This is going to be your first time to vote. Is that correct this year?
Well, not in this upcoming presidential election, but I turn 18 in November. So
okay. So you can't. You go get to vote the next time. Hopefully, this would be an election like none other. So, Michael, let's turn to you first. You and I talked about this show. Give us a little insight. What is the Electoral College for those who don't know what the Electoral College is, and why does it play an important role in electing the president?
So the Electoral College has been around since the creation of the Constitution. So 1789, what the federal government decided to do was have electors from each state who follow the popular vote when the people vote for the presidency. And so every election, the people vote in the popular vote, and then the states traditionally follow the recommendation of the voters. So this has only not happened 57 times over the course since 1789. And those people are called the Faithless Electors. And what they do is they go opposite of kind of the direction that the popular vote went.
Okay, so you and I talked about there have been 5 presidents over the history, and I will invite folks, a reminder, if you want to call in and ask questions, 704-873-1400, 704-873-1400. But there have been 5 presidents who have not won the popular vote but won the presidency. It's John Quincy Adams, Rutherford Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump in the last one. I think Bush won the popular vote in his re-election. Michael, I don't know offhand if he did. He didn't win the popular vote with the Gore election, I think. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's like 2 out of the last 5 elections. So I was having a discussion yesterday with the math teacher, kind of talking about percents and how the the establishment of the Electoral College, the actual electors are. If you look, that's 40%. And so when people say, let's end the Electoral College, or some people say, it works fine, fixing that's way out of my pay grade. And so you kind of look at those numbers, and you could talk, just kind of different things that if you took, this with the census data, that's what's going to establish, that's why that's so important. That's why voting is so important. And I really hammer that home to my students, because that they affect things 10 years from now, so that 2030 election, when I'm still here doing the same thing and my students are, rich and famous and doing all kinds of awesome things, they're going to fix, things that they feel are right or wrong right now. That's why that's so important.
Okay. Well, now Shay, let me move to you. Shay, are you eligible this year to vote, or you're not eligible?
No, by 6 days. I'm going to miss it by 6 days.
Oh boy! Yeah, so what have you learned in the civics class with Mr. Williams about the whole election process? What have you learned about that?
Well, just that elections are very important and you need to vote whenever you can, when you turn 18, if you can in the election. And not just the presidential election is important. The elections before the presidential elections are also really important because those have a sway in the actual election. But I've learned that just sorry.
Well, you learned it's important. I mean, because you think about in 2000, of course, this is before you're born, but the margin of victory in the Bush Gore race in New Mexico and Florida was less than 800 votes. I mean, well, a little more than 800, over a million. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. I mean, that's a very small. So your vote does make a difference. So
Shay, can you elaborate? Maybe remember that iCivics game we played where you had to win the election? Like,
yes.
Can you maybe talk about how you focused on the states maybe that had the bigger electors, or kind of reference that maybe?
So I really had to focus on trying to swing the bigger population states to get me the most votes in this iCivics game, because otherwise my competitor would get those really big swing states and end up winning.
Okay.
And so I really had to, maybe change some wording that I used or change whatever topic I would mention in a rally or in a just a talk, a conference, to try and swing those states in my favor.
Right. Now, Kevin, I'll bring you on. So you said you're also going to miss voting by just, a few days too, or your birthday's in November, so you can't.
Yeah, it's like 2 weeks, I think. Just about 2 weeks I'm going to be.
So what do you make of this election year?
I think it's crazy, really, because comparing it especially to 2016, when just there were so many unknowns between Trump and Hillary, and it was it's become so can't think of the word.
Is the word it's contentious? I'm not the word contentious. It's been very, very competitive, I think, is a good word, without getting into too much of that. So Michael, I would throw it back, and this, all three of you can answer this. Let's say hypothetically that we do eliminate the Electoral College. What do you think would be the net result? This is where Gene and I debate about this. I think the presidential contenders would spend all their time in New York, Florida, Texas, California, and they would just go after the big states.
That's the question. That if this was an issue in 1789, those elections, 1824 when John Quincy Adams beats Andrew Jackson, even the last election that Trump was 2 million votes short of Hillary. Like the question becomes then, what do you fix it with? Could you do some sort of a data sample or a census type kind of assessment? The problem with that is that people might not be forthcoming if somebody just showed up to their house and said, "Hey, who are you voting for?" The Australian ballot, the secret ballot, then goes away. And if you look at, like, if we're talking historically here, if we look at, like, let's take two small states like Vermont. Vermont's got 62,000 people. Maine has 1.3 million. Is that worth one extra electoral vote? Or people that moved from Louisiana to Texas after Hurricane Katrina. I'm just looking at some numbers here. Then Texas gains 4 electoral votes, and Louisiana still went up 1. So those people that are moving from place to place, or let's say somebody works at Carowinds and they want to live in South Carolina because they want to vote for someone down there. The question is then, if you get rid of it, what do you replace it with?
Right.
And that's just that's something that is, people can speculate all day long, but it's been this way for so long. So it's not, my position is not get rid of it or, to keep it. It's my policy is, hey, let's figure out what the students say, because they're going to be the ones that ultimately are affected about this way beyond me.
So the census is critical, that it's going to displace well, not displaced, but it could reassign electors. Is that correct?
Yeah, it'll reposition them based on population. So if like a lot of people are, moving from New York because they're sick of the snow and they want to move to North Carolina, that population shift is gonna affect, those representatives. I mean, North Carolina's got 10 million people and we have 15 electoral votes. South Carolina has 5 million people, which is half the population. So then if we're looking at the, fair kind of disposition of this, they only have 9 electoral votes where they should have 7.5 if you're being, evenly distributed.
Right. Okay. So, based on what we know right now, do you want to take a side? You're in favor of the Electoral College, or you think it is? Let me answer it in a different way. Do we know which one of the founders is really given credit for coming up with this, or do we know?
You're probably going to credit it to the Federalists and Hamilton and Washington and Jefferson and the people that were in that first kind of wave of the founding fathers. But you remember, we're the only country in the world that uses the Electoral College. And so that system is purely American, in its current incarnation. But that's the thing. If you're going to get rid of it, then what does that transition look like? How do you do that? And that's the question I think that people have is like, well, let's get rid of it or let's keep it. But the thing is, there has to be something in place that's going to be able to assess the same kind of criteria that has gone on since 1789.
Right. So, Kevin, I would ask you: have you been inspired through learning about the political system? Do you want to run for office one day?
I don't think I'd personally run for office, but it does intrigue me, the whole political system, because of how much there is to it. Like, you see one position, and then there's so many others. Just it's such an intricate system that that part of it intrigues me. But personally, I wouldn't want to run for office.
And how about you, Shay? You want to run for office?
No, it's not really my cup of tea.
Okay. Well,
I feel like it's really stressful.
Really stressful. So I think one of the things is that you have to learn is if you are willing to take up running, and it kind of escalates as it goes through from the local. You see people running for town board, city board, running for mayor, running for local county. Then you go up to the state level and on up. The higher you get, the more the word I want to use is it can be really almost get nasty at times. So I think one of the things you have to learn is hopefully I see our little local elections here. By and large, they're very, very civil. They're very civil and they're very civil and they're conducted in a reasonable manner. But the more you go up the ladder, the more what's the word I want to use, Mike? The more contentious it gets, the more divisive it gets. So I would ask you to. So, Michael, what do you instruct your students? They're beginning to get into the political foray. How do you help them decide, or you not really influence them, but how do you kind of get them to decide which party they want to align with, or if they want to align with the party?
So a lot of times what I do is, we do a political test and we'll kind of see what kind of views they have. What do they agree with different candidates? Another thing I do is I bring in a lot of guest speakers so they can actually hear from the candidates. We've had John Fraley, Vicky Sawyer. We've had people running for office. The mayor of Statesville's come in, the county manager. So I want them to experience actually speaking to people who have had, to run a campaign, and Vicky Sawyer was kind of interesting because we had her while she was running, and then she came back the following year after she'd been in, and she kind of talked about the difference in the things she was expecting going into being elected, and then what was the reality of it after the fact. But with my students, a lot of times I just want to make sure that they become educated on what the system is. And the good thing about, let's say Shay and Kevin, I taught them in American history. So we went over the actual particulars of those elections. And so once they're able to vote, then they can see, okay, this is really why it's so important. And I think that, the more that they're, open to that, and they can kind of just see, because with me, they don't know what party I am, because my job is to make sure that I just am able to educate them in a way that they can be knowledgeable for the future.
Right. So Shay and Kevin, I mean, I'm not going to put you on this, but you can answer if you want to. Which party you want to align with, or are you finding folks that are coming out now want to be unaffiliated, independent? Is that the most popular choice, do you think? Kevin, you want to start?
I think compared to the 2016 election, a lot more people are independent because they just don't want to really associate themselves with one party because of how much uncivil, I guess, maybe the word, just how, like you said earlier, competitive it is.
Right.
Because there's just so much unrest between the two parties, and it can be dangerous.
Right. And Shay, how about you? Are you?
Yeah, I agree with Kevin. In this day and age, in this specific election, you really don't want to tell certain people what party you are a part of, because it could lead to dangerous situations. So it's really crazy, this election.
Well, and you're right. You're right. Well, we know one of the things is the lesson that we just lost Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And of course, she was the polar opposite of Anton Scalia, the judge that passed previously. And they would respect each other professionally, but they also did things outside. They knew how to have a civil discourse. I think, Michael, one of the things that's beginning to be a thing, well, I hope it's not a thing of the past, is how can we conduct a legitimate political discourse and not get into a personal attack on one another?
Well, I mean, we do that in class. We call them civil conversations, where, there's parameters and groundwork laid so that students can express their views, but they're not able to personally attack them. Because, I mean, when you talk about, discussions and things, people should be able to have educated discussions without it turning violent. And I think a lot of the issue that people see is the stuff on social media where you're looking at a video of someone attacking someone else, and then the question becomes, well, where's that video coming from? Who filmed that video? Has it been edited? And I really try to show my students that you have to be objective when you view different things, just because, like Kevin was saying, everything has a political slant to it, and this is beyond the spectrum of what we're discussing, because if the Electoral College is eliminated, then it has to be a constitutional amendment, and so that would be the 28th Amendment that you would have to actually people talk about an act of Congress. Well, that would actually be a physical act of Congress to eliminate the Electoral College, and there has to be a way that politicians can listen to what the people want and facilitate those decisions.
Well, you and I talked about it. Now, I'd heard this also because technically it's the electors that elect the president. They're just, by and large, we've seen them follow the lead of the lead of their state, whatever.
Well, most of those states have laws establishing that they have to follow what the popular vote says.
Right. In other words, to do the scenario I talked about where the legislature could overrule the popular vote, they would have to redo their constitution, their state constitution, I guess.
Yeah, and I mean, and then the only way if people were going to say, well, let's eradicate the Electoral College, would be to pass an actual amendment, because it is written in the Constitution.
Okay. So during this time, Kevin and Shay, you guys are you in person at school, both of you? Or are you coming 3 days?
No, I'm all online right now. I'm not sure about Shay, but I'm on.
Yeah.
So
Me too. I'm online.
You're online. You're online too. Okay, so let me ask you both this, and because I'm an old guy, I'm on Facebook. But for both of you, how do you get your news? How do you get current events? Is it through social media, or do you watch the internet? I mean, you watch the cable. How do you get your news? Shay, you want to start?
Well, I have an app, like a news app on my phone. That's not the only source that I get it from. I also rarely, but sometimes I watch the news real time, but mostly like I'll get notifications of stories, be like, oh, this happened this day, and it'll have all the details, or this happened an hour ago, and like I'll get updates like that.
Okay. And you, Kevin? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Wait, Shay. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I don't tend to rely on social media because it can be really biased and not have all the facts. And I like facts to make decisions based like just to make decisions. So I don't really rely on social media for my news.
That's right, because you never know on those nasty Russians could be out there on the Facebook feeding you information. And Kevin, how about you? Where do you get your information?
Pretty much the same way Shay does. I mean, she hit the nail on the head with the whole how much bias there is, because it's not that accurate, or it's not that reliable from social media, any social media outlet really. Even news sources, they're sway one way or another. So I only really pay attention to like the big stories, and then I'll look at a bunch of different sources and kind of just make my own opinion on it.
And Michael, do you ever encourage folks to watch C-SPAN? That way there's no commentary. It's just kind of like, here's
honestly, we kind of take the opposite view. Like I'll pull up Daily Show clips, and what we'll do is we'll have, questions before that we watch the clip, so that there's context to some of the things he's saying. And then after we watch the clip, then they can go through and they can see, different perspectives and things. Like right now, one of the assignments this week is we're watching the old movie, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Oh, wow.
And so we're using a program the district paid for and it's called Ed Puzzle, where through the video, it stops and you have to answer questions as you're going through the video. And because in this class here, these guys are, other than 3 students, they're all remote. So, we've had to change things up, how I distribute different things to them, because most of them, this is their only high school class. All the rest of their classes are Mitchell College classes.
Right. I mean, I think it's so important. I applaud you for doing this, because I think it's kind of an afterthought for a lot of the students that you can be civically responsible, if that's a word I could, to have a responsibility to be a good citizen, to take your responsibility to be a good citizen, to vote. So Shay and Kevin, are most of your folks that are eligible, are they registering to vote? Your fellow students that are eligible, you have some friends that are going to be voting this year?
Yeah, I know a few people that are voting this year. I'm not sure if they're, well, I know they're eligible to vote and they're old enough, but I'm not sure if all of them are registered.
Right. So if you do vote, are you going to vote in person, or are you going to vote early, or are you going to vote by mail? How do you think you'll do that?
I would vote in person if I were voting this year.
How about you, Shay?
Yeah, me too. I would vote in person.
Well, I like to go early. I'd like to go, early voting and go down to the because I think Michael, who was it? Tell me, you took some students over to the Board of Elections and got them registered.
Yeah, they were actually, a lot of times when they get their driver's license, they registered. So we took a field trip and we walked up to the Board of Elections, and 7 of them voted for the first time.
Excellent. So that's
very neat.
That's good. So want to thank you, guys, and we'll wind down a little bit. Tell us a little bit about now. So your schedule right now, Michael, is you're having students in live with you from a few days a week, or no? Or is it all virtual?
Yeah. So it's hybrid, and so some of my classes, have 10 students. Some of them are smaller numbers than that. And so, with my civics kids, my students, what they do is we work throughout the week, and we hold Zoom calls, on Wednesdays, and just kind of touch base. And then I'll kind of explain what the process is. Like this week, we're watching Mr. Smith Go to Washington, and there was an excellent documentary on Frontline that researched both of the candidates for this election. And so a lot of the students, there's 4 of them in my 4th block that are going to be voting in this election. And so I wanted to, even though like specifically with Shay and Kevin, they're not eligible to vote in this election, but I'm trying to lay that groundwork so that when the next election, if it's for city council or whatever race that would be, that's going to spark that interest in them to continue to say, okay, I want to be the change.
Well, we're winding down. I gotta log out here. Michael Williams, thank you very much for all you do for these kids in teaching them about civics. Shay Stewart and Kevin Calverley. How about the sound of Senator Shay Stewart? I like that sound, or Senator Kevin Calverley. Maybe one day you'll run, or mayor. You never know. So this has been News Talk WSIC. Thank you guys. Thank you for all you do. You guys have a wonderful week. And in the time of COVID, it's News Talk. At the top of the hour, it's the Home Ad Show here on News Talk.
For Denver, this is 105.
Oh yeah. Hey guys, thank you. You guys rock. You can hear me.